Hello YouTubers, what we are going to do today is we are going to do the direct to film sublimation hack. It's where you use the film for the direct to film printers and you put it through your sublimation printer. And then you can press it on cotton. So this little Raddish here is on 100% cotton flower sack towel from Walmart. He's also been washed and dried already too. He's held up amazingly well. He's really soft to the touch. And he feels a bit like a screen printed t-shirt. And then this is the music that I've done as well. It works really well. I came into this very skeptic and it's really cool. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of how it works, and then we will talk about supplies and how to make one. All right, so this is our sublimation print. Most people, I would imagine, know what this is at this point. They're cool because basically you print and you can press it on your substrate. The only gripe is that they can only go on certain substrates and it has to be light colors. Those are the two big drawbacks with them. They do make some really cool things. Now this is a direct to film transfer. I would imagine a lot of people have seen these. Now they're a very big printer at the moment. This may change in the future, but it prints on this film. And then it goes through like a curing process where they put this white powder on the back. And the white powder is what helps it stick to your garment. The very cool thing about the direct to film is that it can go on anything, any color and any kind of fabric. And that's the really cool thing. The printers at this point in time are still very big, very expensive, and not really, in my opinion, meant for like a hobbyist. They generally need to be run they need to be run fairly often. They also are a bit messy and they're very big. But they make really cool transfers. So, and basically we're going to put the two together. So you can take your sublimation printer and print on the film, and then we can press it. Now, it still has to go on a light colored shirt. It can cover a little bit better than like a standard print, a standard sublimation print, but it's still going to need to go on white or light or white or light gray or something along those lines. But it can go on 100% cotton. I have washed and dried it once and it has been fine. So it's a bit of a marriage between the two. So let me go show you the supplies. All right, so what everybody wants to know. This is my direct to film, and then this is the powder I've been using. There are more on the market, but this is what I've been using. I will leave the links down below in the description to where I bought these off Amazon. When I bought them, the transfer film was $17.99, so this film, and then my powder was $21.99. I got a coupon, so my total was $32 for my two, but now it would be it'd be 40. It'll be a little over 40. They were also Amazon Prime, so I got them relatively quickly. Some of the other films and film papers and stuff, they take a while to come. So I will leave a link down below to where you can get this. Leave this in its little plastic sleeve. The print side and the not print side are virtually identical. So leave it in its little sleeve so you know which side to print on. This powder is a lot like sand, like really fine sugar sand. It gets everywhere. So if it's really going to bother you breathing it, like it doesn't bother me to breathe it, but it is a fine dust that kind of gets everywhere. So keep that in mind. I've been using a leftover little plastic container, and that's what I've been putting it in. So you're going to need a container or a box, or some people pour it on a piece of paper and then pour it back in the container, but I would recommend a container more than just a piece of paper, because if you do use the piece of paper, it is going to get everywhere. If that's okay for you, just know that it'll get everywhere. You're also going to need a piece of paper and some painter's tape to get your film through your printer. Now this film is not 8.5 by 11, it's A4 paper, so it's a little shorter and a little longer than a traditional sheet of paper. So we're going to have to cut the bottom off too, so I guess scissors. But we could set it up for an A4, but I don't have any A4 paper, but you could set it up to print A4 in your software if you wanted to as well. But we're just going to cut it down to 8.5 by 11. All right, I wanted to talk about designs for a second. This is Blooper. He is a mascot for the Atlanta Braves. And I drew this in Procreate. And so obviously it was originally meant to be a sublimation design. And I was going to put it on a shirt, and I did. This is Blooper. Now, I think this looks better, and I think direct to film in general looks better with like a very hard line, bold design. I think a lot of this faded stuff just doesn't really transfer very well. Like, see, like it looks better here on the shirt than it kind of transferred over here. So keep that in mind. So I would suggest, I redid them and took away a lot of the fade to have a little bit more of a crisp line. I think that translates better. Also, in his eyes, it's white, and so nothing's printing from my printer. So you can feel the difference between my print here and his eyes. You can like feel the difference. So keep that in mind, or you want to fill it with a gray or something. If you have like a solid design, like it's kind of weird that his eyes don't have anything with them. Like it feels different on the shirt. If like here, it doesn't matter, but just keep that in mind. You're going to be able to feel the difference between having the design on it and not. All right, something else to note. My colors seem to be darker when I'm doing this process than traditional sublimation. So you can see Blooper's hat here, it's blue here, and see how much darker it is here. This red is much more vibrant and it's darker over here. It's not like insanely different colors, but this is brighter and this tends to print darker. So if you have a great design that's all these different shades of gray and stuff, it may not print like you think it's going to print, or it may print better in sublimation than it would in this. And I would say that even for direct to film, like this is meant to be like an airbrush graffiti kind of design. That's going to look better in sublimation than this hack or even direct to film. I think direct to film and this need a much more clear and cut design. So clean cut, high contrasting design, I think is probably going to do better for this. So let's go set it up and print. All right, so we're in CorelDRAW. You're basically just going to bring your PNG image in and we're going to print it. But I did want to show you, this one is a sublimation design I was working on. I don't know if this or something like this where they're really close in color, if something like that would work very well for this process. I think sublimation would be better for it than this direct to film hack. But that's Blooper. So I go and I print him to the print manager. All right, so we're in the print manager, and all I really wanted to tell you is that I tried different settings, different substrates, and it didn't go well. So stick with polyester fabric, high quality, and then my color is set to vivid. I don't know if that really matters, but, and he needs to be mirrored like any other sublimation print. So now we're gonna go put our film onto our paper and then we will print. All right, so the film doesn't go through by itself. So you have to put it, this is a standard 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. And then, so print side is this side. And like I said, they are virtually identical. So, you know, be very careful to not get mixed up. So, and you just line it up at the top. And then I just take some painter's tape. Any removable tape will work, I would imagine. And you also want to make sure that you're not taping too close to where it's going to be printing. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but our paper is a little bit smaller. It's a little bit narrower, so see, our paper is a little bit narrower. So keep that in mind when you're putting your setting your print up. Now, down here at the end, it's a little bit longer because it's A4 paper. So what I've been taking is my trusty rotary cutter and quilting ruler that one day aspires to be used for quilting. Maybe one day. And then I just cut it off. Scissors would obviously work too, but this is just easier, and I've just been throwing that little bit away. And then I've just been putting one at the bottom. Now, in theory, you got it lined up straight-ish. Also, you need to have your bucket ready and your powder ready. So what's going to happen is when it comes out, it's going to be wet. You can't touch it. because if you do, you're obviously going to smear ink everywhere. So it needs to go into the bucket. So I normally put it this way and then dump my powder on it and then roll the powder back a couple of times. You need to do this quickly. And while the ink is dry, don't let it wait. You can't wait. So I try to take it off my piece of paper and roll it as fast as I can. And I have my powder close by too. So this is my sublimation printer. It's a Sawgrass SG400. They don't make them anymore. It's like a 500 now. Epson makes them. You can also convert them. Any of them will work, but it has to be a sublimation printer. Now, I've already done this, but the logo side has to be up. So correct side of the paper has to be facing down. So for me, that means film side is facing down. You would need to double check with your printer so that you print on the correct side. And now we're going to hit print. As you can tell, our blooper is very wet. So what I do is normally take this bottom one off first. And that way it'll come off easier here. And then I put him in our bucket here. And then this is our powder. And then you just dump over our blooper here. And then what I do is just gently. And you do want to make sure that you get all of it covered. I just do this a couple of times to make sure everything's covered. And you want to shake off all your powder. So your powder is on there. Okay, with our loose powder, I just put it back into our container. Let's see how it's still all over our container. It's just a very fine powder, so be aware. And then you can use it again. Alright, so see, this is 100% cotton. It's a flour sack towel. You can go buy them over at Walmart. You used to be able to buy them like 10 for like $10, I think. But this is our heat press. We have it set to 385 for 40 seconds. I still like to use a pressing pillow underneath it. You technically don't need anything on top of it. It still makes me a bit nervous to do that. This is a 12 by 12 ceramic tile. It's not necessary, but these are a cold peel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them from pressing and then put them over here until it cools down enough to peel. It needs to be cold to the touch. You can use heat tape to keep them in place because technically there's no adhesive to keep them in place. So do keep that in mind. If you have really thin fabric, you're going to want to put something behind it. This was my tester that I did, and see, this was my paper underneath it, and see how it went right through. And then I had pressed something else, so there's a line on the paper, and it came through on my design. So see the line in the music here? Well, believe me, there's a line in the music right here, and there's a line right here, and that's where this line came from. The reason that this would be important is if you wanted to do this press and like on a sleeve, you're going to be able to see that seam doing this technique. So keep that in mind on like a shirt, that you don't want a seam underneath wherever you're pressing, because it will come through. It's not like really terribly noticeable, but there is a line right here. And it's from this right here. Alright, so you're going to want to pre-press to get out any moisture and wrinkles. And make sure you got any lint or anything like that off. Alright, so we're going to do 385 at 45 seconds. I may have misspoken earlier and said 40, but we're going to do it for 45 seconds. So we're going to take our blooper and put him powder side down. We are not melting this powder. We are putting it on completely as powder. We're not heating it or doing any of that. And then I just put some tape on him just to make sure it doesn't move. It doesn't need a cover sheet. And we are going to close. Alrighty, so we're gonna scoot Blooper over here and let him cool down on our tile. Alright, so Blooper is cold. A moment of truth. There we go. Alright, so how cool is Mr. Blooper here? I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of ready to hate this process because I thought it's gonna be more trouble than it's worth, but this is really cool. It's got a light kind of texture. It's actually fairly soft. It's obviously heavier than sublimation, but it's not as heavy as like vinyl. So I would say kind of like screen printing and soft. The Raddish over here that's been washed and dried, it's not as soft, but it's still fairly soft. So I think this is a great alternative, especially in the summer. Polyester shirts are hot. No matter how many times or what they try to do, they're hot. And so I can totally see this being for a good cotton project for the summer, especially. Now, one thing I do want to point out is every time I've done this, I've gotten some splotchiness on it. Like, I don't know if it's terribly noticeable, but every single one, there has been some of it. Now, I did try to change settings and mess with stuff, and I just made it worse. So, it may just be the way it is, because this is a hack, so it's a given that it may not be perfect. So, our Raddish, we're going to wash and dry more this weekend, and I will put a short up next week. If it's already next week, I will pin it in the comments below so you can see how it does once it's been washed and dried some more. It's been washed and dried once already on cold water and a normal dryer. And we'll wash and dry them some more and see how it does. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to our little channel. Thank you so much.